Trust me, I get it. You're feeling the pressure to keep your faith separate from your work, worried that pursuing your God-given dreams might be seen as selfish or misguided. For far too long, we've been held back by a world that tells us that faith and ambition don't mix, that our divinely inspired visions are just wishful thinking. But here's what I've discovered. Our faith isn't a liability in our leadership. As a matter of fact, it's the source of our strength and wisdom. When we fully integrate our leadership with our Christian values, then and only then do we tap into that unshakable divine power. The real challenge is navigating how to boldly pursue our purpose while staying anchored in our faith. And that's exactly what The Beacon Show is all about. Each week, we bring you biblical wisdom and practical strategies from true beacons, Christian leaders who are illuminating the world. And it's also that you can let your light shine brighter and brighter. I'm Tamara Jackson, and this is The Beacon Show. Now, I want to ask you something because I'm noticing kind of this trend. You seem to be really big in stepping away. Like when you feel that you need clarity or that something doesn't feel like it's working, you take time off or you step away. Why do you think that's important? Because,
that's a good question.
I can imagine that there's so many people listening to us right now that are identifying with points that you've shared, but they feel like I can't shut this down.
Yeah.
I can't step away. All these people are depending on me, this, that, and the other, whatever their story is. Why is it important to step away? And how do people find the strength to do that?
Yeah. It's a really good question. Old identity, Josh, did not step away. Right. There were tragic life moments that caused it. Right. Death of my brother. I very much believe, and the Bible talks about this, that God is not a God of chaos. He's a God of clarity. Right. He's not a God of confusion. And when there is movement, like that can create chaos. Right. It can. Doesn't always have to. Right. But I know that when I am unclear, and I know that my life is supposed to be a representation of Christ and of who he has called me to be, and who I am as a man, as a leader. If I'm not clear, it's very hard to lead, right? And it's really like what's the saying? Muddy water is best left or sit like untouched or whatever to get clear, right? Yeah. Like don't keep muddy in the water, right?
Or something like
yeah,
that,
something
right?
like that, right? Muddy water is best left sit to get clear, whatever, right? And it's like I have found that in my life now that like I'm either all in and like we're rolling, right? There's no uncertain, like I know where I'm going, boom. Or it's like, oh yikes, I don't. And like, I don't want to say there's no in between, but it's like, it's very obvious to me when I'm not certain or not clear on where it is that I need to be. And I think that oftentimes we live in these worlds where it's black and white in the sense of like, well, take time off or, take a month off or a week. It's like, I believe that you just need to take the amount of time off that is required to go be silent or to get clear. That's it. And for some people, that might be an hour. For some people, that might be a day. For some people, it might be a week. Some people might be a month. Some people might be a year, right? Like, it scared me to death to shut down my podcast. It scared me to death to shut down my business. Like, never in my whole life would I ever have thought, oh, I'm not going to go and continue to build this, something that like, but like, it's the best thing I've ever done because I just was unclear. And so I think that one of the best pieces of advice I got was from a guy named Brad Gibb, very close friend of mine now, very wealthy, successful, religious, 6 kids, right? And he said, Josh, I asked him, he was actually here in this studio. And I asked him, I was like, what advice would you give your younger self? And he said, get married and have a lot of kids. And second is understand that success in life is like decades happen in years and years take decades, right? Like, it's like you will feel like you're doing nothing for 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And then on year 5 or 6, like 10 years will happen in that year, right? And he's like, but it'll only happen if you go through the 3 or 4 or 5 years that are required to go and have that decade happen. And I think oftentimes for me, I just thought life was this. Like, if I wasn't going up, like the fastest way to go up is not straight up or not like this, right? Like the fastest way to go is, exponential shifts. So I think if you're struggling to, take time off or whatever, go, well, do you need to take time off? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just need to be a little bit more disciplined. Maybe you just need to like put your head down and actually do the work, right? Saw this quote the other day. It was like, dear Christians, right? And it was like, sometimes you don't need more prayers. God already gave you the answer. You just need more discipline, right?